changed my entire business plan since I started selling kind of full-time a few months ago. I'm finally settled into my new schedule, so I know exactly how much time I have and where to put it. This is my monthly what sold video, so you are going to see everything that I sold on eBay and Poshmark and Depop, but I'm also going to give you some details on my new business plan and why I am changing things. I'm obviously really on theme today with change. I was really sick of filming in my office, so now I am filming in my living room. If I'm going to change all aspects of my business, I might as well change how I do YouTube too. If you're new here, hi, I'm Taylor Jo. I am a reseller that started in October 2024 just on eBay, and I was very part-time. Up until the last couple of months, I have been able to spend roughly 6 hours a day on my business. So I recently started expanding my range to other platforms, including Poshmark and Depop. But I have recently discovered a second side of reselling that really speaks to my soul, and that is live selling, specifically on Whatnot. Just to prove how Whatnot is clearly where I should be spending my time and energy, last month, on all of my marketplaces, which prior to 2 months from then was my only source of income, my source of income. I'm not talking about my husband's, who's obviously the breadwinner. I made net $366 in September from eBay, Poshmark, and Depop. For context, again, if you're new here, my average is usually around $500 a month on those platforms, and my goal is $1,000 a month. However, on Whatnot, I made a total of $612 last month. So if you add the two of those together, that's $978. That's $22 away from my monthly goal of $1,000 a month. But I wouldn't have gotten there if it wasn't for live selling. Unfortunately, due to the nature of live selling, I can't really do a what sold video and tell you exactly what sold. However, I can give you some metrics that might be interesting to you. They were interesting to me. In the entire month of September, I sold 143 items over 18 shows. I averaged $5.44 an item. I know, low. I was live for a total of 21 hours, and I had an average of 2 buyers per day. I also, a very interesting metric, my highest spending repeat buyers spent $140 on my shows alone. And if you're interested to know like what sold, it was a combination of new with tags Target merchandise that I bought from a local reseller who was moving and didn't want to bring all of her inventory with her. She just wanted to like start over. So I bought all of her inventory from her for $1 a piece. I also shopped at the bins and found pre-loved clothing. I also pulled out clothing that wasn't selling on my platforms, just specifically more catered to fall and like what is in style right now. And actually my first couple of shows were golf polo themed. In spring, I went to a garage sale and I found, I want to say like 60 golf polos from one single person. They cost me less than $2 each. I think actually less than $1.50 a piece. And I decided to do that to do my first Whatnot shows so that they would be themed. And by the third day, I was sick of looking at them, and I ended up titling my Whatnot show Attention Resellers. And I ended up selling all of my inventory for, I think, $6 each to a couple of resellers that sell on Whatnot. So I profited quite a bit off of that actually, because I didn't pay very much for those shirts. So if Whatnot sounds interesting to you, this is not at all sponsored. This is just a referral link that everybody gets. I have 2 links in my link tree in my description. One of them is if you want to be a Whatnot seller, you get a $150 match in your first week from Whatnot. And I will get a commission if you sell anything, I think. And then the other one is if you're just interested in being a buyer on Whatnot, and it'll give you $15 free to spend, and then it gives me a $5 commission, which I have been using to tip other new sellers on the app, which is really fun. So now, all that said about live selling does not mean that I'm going to quit selling on the marketplaces. I'm still very attracted to higher ROI sales. I still have a lot to learn to be successful on eBay and Poshmark and Depop. And I've also not only streamlined my listing process, like it has become a well-oiled machine, but I've also gained a considerable amount of free storage space, which I will probably talk about in another update video. So I'm really excited about that. And by the way, I did sell items across all 3 platforms last month, which is so exciting. I love that. So let's start with eBay. Thankfully, if you don't like super long what sold videos, I only sold, $360 worth of merchandise. So it's gonna be kind of a short one, but I do wanna start with a really exciting one. So this Anthropologie Sadie and Sage dress I picked up at a Goodwill a long time ago, like literally last year. Because this was an Anthropologie brand, I initially had it listed for like $20 and I bumped it down to about $15 when it didn't sell like months later. Thanks to REU, I not only learned how to improve the look of my listing by adding a mannequin, which was somebody's recommendation in the Facebook group there, but I also completely changed the title and the description to attract the most likely buyer. And I took a risk and raised the price considerably to $40, like $39.99. And after I did this, I ended up selling it, I think just within a couple of weeks. I took a best offer of $29. So guys, I was trying to sell this for $15. I improved the listing, raised the price, and took $29 instead. I would not have learned how to do that without REU, and if you don't know what REU is, it stands for Resellers Edge University, and it's basically the backbone of my confidence in reselling clothing. Not only are they helping me get a higher ROI, but they're also helping me work out what is worth picking up and what's not. Before I discovered REU, I would literally go to the bins and just pick up anything that had a brand that I recognized that was in good condition. This last time I went to the bins, I walked in with so much confidence and I walked out with over 50 pieces to either resell on Whatnot or to resell on the marketplaces. Of the ones I chose for my Whatnot shows, I sold them in the same day. I sold like 10 of them in the same day. They were on-trend, style-based pickups that I curated specifically for my audience. And I just think that that's really cool. So if you guys are looking for a community of like super, super supportive people, like other resellers that are in the same boat as you, along with coaches that have years and years of experience in clothing reselling. As a member of REU and a partner, they've given me a discount code to share with you. It's code TaylorJoe, and then the link is in my description down below. And thank you to those of you who have already joined. And when you do join, I will see you on the Facebook page and in the daily live coaching sessions. All right, the next item is this silver ice bucket. I am so frustrated about this thing that I don't even want to talk about it. My mom bought this for 50 cents at a garage sale. She looked up what it was selling for on eBay. It had like a 400% sell-through rate. Someone had sold it for $400, like a polished version of it. This one was obviously heavily tarnished. I ended up listing it for $220. It sat for a few months, so I accepted an offer for $175. I took the little rocket ship handle off of it to ship it to the buyer so that it wouldn't break off. And when the buyer received it, they weren't able to reattach the rocket ship handle. So I ended up getting a return request, and it was not an item not as described, but item arrived damaged, which means that I had to pay not only the return shipping, but also the original shipping cost. So this went to California. It was shipped UPS because it was very heavy. And so a ice bucket that cost me 50 cents is now costing me $30. So I took it down. My mom took it, and I don't know what she's doing with it. We're gonna try to get at least our $30 back on that thing. I do have to mention too that I did offer a partial refund for the buyer to be able to repair it. I Googled like how much it would cost to repair something like that, and I offered them a partial refund of I think like $60, which was way more than necessary, and they didn't want to take it. So I had to give them a full refund. All right, next up is this Brooks Brothers quarter zip sweater. This was merino wool, and I said this in my last What Sold video, but merino wool is always hot in the fall season. I sell so much merino wool. If I buy anything that's merino wool, especially 100% merino wool, it sells very quickly in the fall and in the winter. I paid $5 at a thrift store around this time last year, and I sold it this year for full price at $35. Always pick up 100% merino wool and check to make sure there's no holes in it, but it will even sell if it has holes in it, but just for less. All right, I picked up these Bygos, don't know how to pronounce that, jeans at my local thrift store. They were new with tags, so I thought they'd maybe be worth more. I paid $6 in February and it sold for full price at $30. So not too bad. This Old Navy floral shirt was my own. I didn't like it anymore, so I say $0 into it when it's a personal item, and I sold it for $15. Okay, these Denim & Co. pull-on pants. This is an interesting one. This was an experimental purchase. I actually bought these from Daily Refinement's Whatnot show. He was doing 5-pack Nuitag QVC clothing, and so with the bundle, it ended up costing, like, each piece was under $4. So this was, in my head, I was like, Nuitags, mature buyers like to buy stuff on eBay and costs less than it would at Goodwill. Then it was a win for me. It was also kind of fun because I had no idea what I was gonna get, so it was like Christmas when I got the packages. So these pants actually sold very quickly. I think it was like 2 weeks for $11. So not a super high return on investment, but I'm glad as an experimental purchase that it was not negative. Another piece from the QVC bundle was this Kim Gravel tankini. Under $4 in, again, sold in a couple weeks for my full asking price of $23. And by the way, if you can't tell, I am fully embracing using stock photos for clothing listings. The reason I'm doing this is because, first of all, no one cares. Literally no one cares. There may be a few brands that care, like higher end brands, like really high end brands might care, but these brands don't care. And secondly, it's easier for the customer to see what the clothing piece looks like on versus on a flat lay table. Just note that if you're going to use stock photos as your first photo, make sure that you have photos of the actual listing. People will be less likely to buy from you if they can't see the actual thing. So I had the stock photo plus pictures of this swimsuit on a mannequin and flat lay photos. I just went full ham on it. All right, next one. This is a hard good and interesting one. This is a furnace control board. We found this at the bins for $1, and I think this took about 4 months to flip, but it sold for $49. And that was best offer. It should have sold for more than that, but I was sick of looking at it, so $49, I'll take it. Always be on the lookout for electronics that have like model numbers and things like that. Look that stuff up on eBay because it's easy to tell when you have something that has a model number on it exactly what it's worth. Next up is this Eli Cattleman Pearl Snap shirt. I found this at a garage sale for $5 over the summer. It was bundled with other Wrangler Pearl Snap shirts, so I just threw it into the bundle and I wasn't sure if the brand would sell well or not. I flipped it for $17, which is actually pretty good for just like a plain plaid one. Pearl Snap shirts, like even regular Pearl Snaps, don't actually sell for that much unless you have one that's really like unique looking. And this one was, you know, Eli Cattleman, not Wrangler, and also not unique looking. So $17 is actually pretty decent. Okay, this halogen turtleneck. I don't really know much about the brand, to be honest. This was just really high quality. I found this at a bin a long time ago. I hated how it looked on this flat lay table. And by the way, if you see me not using a mannequin when I should be, it's because these photos were taken before I even had a mannequin. So this is definitely one that I would have put on a mannequin. But this shirt got a lot of interest, and I got messages from 2 different usernames asking me if I could ship it to Germany. And I was like, I, in the nicest way possible, said, if eBay is allowing you to check out, then yes, I use the international shipping program. So the answer is yes. If you can buy it, yes, it ships to Germany. Anyways, it only sold for $10. So not even really, I mean, because it was a bins flip, it was okay, but I'd rather, if I'm gonna buy something at the bins, I wanna flip it for more like 20, not 10. So me found these Old Navy Wow boyfriend jeans. They were a bin find from July, and I sold them for $12. These are a pair of youth messy soccer cleats, like the soccer player messy. I found these at a garage sale for $5, and it took a little while. Like I found these at a garage sale, I wanna say in the spring, but they sold for $40. And I did have to do a considerable amount of cleaning on these. Soccer cleats usually come with a lot of mud and dirt, and where I live it's clay on the shoes, so I had to clean them up, but I do think it was worth it for $40. Like that's really good. All right, next are these Soft with 2 F's brand moccasin shoes. These were from my very, very, very first ever sourcing trip. at the, it was an online liquidation. If you're not familiar with my videos or you haven't seen like my very first videos, the biggest mistake I made when I first started reselling was sourcing my inventory from an online liquidation. And I'm not talking about like whatnot auctions, which that can also be a mistake too. You have to be very careful with that. I'm talking about a company that has a specific website set up and they do Amazon returns, and everything on their website starts at $1 and you can bid on it and fight with other people. And I still regret buying a lot of inventory from there. Thankfully, I only paid $6 for these. They were brand new in the box and they sold for $25, but they took almost a year to sell. So not worth taking up space on my shelf. This Patagonia flannel shirt was obviously a quick flip because it's Patagonia and 'tis the season for flannel. I paid $2 at the bins and flipped that for $20. This Elton John mug with Elton John and all of his little outfits. This was my first time flipping a coffee mug. I have zero interest in flipping anything that is breakable. I bought this before I made that decision. However, I found it at a Goodwill in last December for $6, which is insanely overpriced for a flipping coffee mug, and I flipped it for $20. This Columbia PFG, this is a women's Columbia PFG, like a fishing shirt or a hiking shirt. This is an interesting one. So I actually sourced this from a lady on Facebook Marketplace. She was getting rid of her clothing in bulk, like cleaning out her closet. She used to work at Nordstrom Rack, so she had a lot of like department store brand pieces, and I got a lot from this lady. I got over 100 pieces from her for $40, so everything was, you know, less than 50 cents each. I didn't list any of these pieces until very recently. So this one was the first one to sell. And so it was under $1 and I flipped it for $25. So I've already made more than half of my money back on this one piece from a Facebook Marketplace bulk pickup. If someone is getting rid of their clothing on Facebook Marketplace, especially if it's free, like consider maybe picking it up and taking the time to go through it. Like it really depends. In this case, the only reason I picked it up was because she was like, well, first of all, there was like pictures of a lot of the stuff, so I knew that some of it would sell really well. And secondly, just her history of like working at Nordstrom Rack, and I knew what kind of brands she was gonna have. So I feel like that was a really good idea, and I definitely use that as a sourcing method still. So, all right, next up is this Tula baby carrier. If you remember from some of my previous videos, I have a consignment going on. I only have 2 pieces left of this consignment, where a woman gave me a lot of Tula baby carriers. I think there was like 8 or 9, and then she gave me several Coach bags to sell as well, and a Dooney and Burke bag. This one was interesting though. All of the Tula baby carriers sold really fast except for this one, and I was like, why is this one not selling? Well, someone finally messaged me, the person who bought it from me messaged me and said, hey, just so you know, I think this is a toddler carrier. And I was like, that's interesting because it says baby Tula on the tag. So I thought that that meant it was a baby carrier. She said, measure it. If the bottom panel is 17 inches, then it's a toddler carrier. And if so, I'd like to purchase it. And I'm like, okay, like give me a sec. So I pulled it out, I measured it, I took a photo, I sent it to her, and I said, you are right, this is a toddler carrier. And she also helped me out because I explained to her the situation. And she said that this brand used to be called Baby Tula, and that's why it says Baby Tula on the tag. So that was a learning experience. And if you find Tula baby carriers in the wild, they all look like this, but they have like different patterns, pick it up because they sell really, really well. I think I had this one listed for $55 and she offered me $35 and we settled on $45. I think that's how it went. So I took 40% of that for the consignment and gave the other 60 to my consignee. I also have to mention that I have a couple of like really stupid electronics that I bought at garage sales. It's not even worth showing. I bought them for less than $5. They sold for $5. I put them on auction at $5 so that I would just make my money back. If you're having trouble selling something and it was kind of like a mistake buy, put it on auction for a little bit more than the amount that you bought it for and it should sell. But an auction, by the way, does cost money. Even if you have a store subscription, like I have the basic store subscription, they still charge you 25 cents per listing for some reason. I don't know why. All right, moving on to Poshmark. I actually sold 5 things on Poshmark in September. The first of which are these Zara linen pants. They had like zippers on them. I found these at the bins in July and they sold for $15. So That's right about where I want to be, is like $15, $20 for bin finds or more, obviously. Next up is this Worthington brand cami. This was new with tags. So I want to explain this. This was another experimental sourcing experience. I have a store near me that sells liquidated new with tags clothing for really cheap. So this top was under $4. New with tags under $4 seems good to me. I was trying to go for like the Y2K style angle with this and thought it would sell for a lot more. But based on comps when I got it home, all of them were selling for less than $10. So this one ended up selling for $9, unfortunately. So super low ROI on that one. And I will definitely be more selective about my purchases from that store next time. Next up are these Saucony. I have like a fight with one of my best friends on how to pronounce this brand. I think it is Saucony. So say it how you will. These were my husband's. He bought them on Amazon and he wore them for, I want to say he only wore them like twice, like in a span of a couple of months. So they were still in brand new condition. But because this was a personal purchase and we weren't able to return it back to Amazon, I just said $0 as a personal buy, but they sold for $40 in really good condition. So I think we honestly just got our money back for those. I don't think he paid very much. All right, this one is a new with tags yoga Adidas shirt. I actually bought this from Becky Park on her Whatnot show. I bought 2 of these from her and I kept one for myself, and I was doing kind of a bundle because I was actually buying a lot of things for myself on her Whatnot show. So I ended up just kind of bundling in things that I could resell too, and I was like, why not? New with tags, yoga shirt, cool enough. I want to say it was like $5, probably. I don't think anybody fought with me on it. I don't think there was any bidding wars on that item, but I was able to flip it for $15, so not too bad. You probably know who Becky Park is, but if for some reason you live under a reseller rock, Becky Park is a YouTuber, reseller, teacher, mom. She's amazing. I love her. Really, really sweet woman, and you should definitely check out her channel. Next up is this new with tags, also Adidas like pullover, but I also bought this from Becky's show for $5, I think, and that one ended up selling for $15. So that was it for my Poshmark sales. On Depop, I sold 4 things in September. This pair of 70s style altered state flare jeans. I saw these at my local thrift store and I ran. I was like, oh my God, these are so cute. If they were in a larger size, they would have sold so much faster. I think they were a size 23 or 25, like really, really small. So they took a bit longer to sell than expected, but I only paid $4. My local thrift store, nothing is over $4 in there. So $4 at a thrift store, they sold for $28. I got this skirt. This is a vintage, like a genuinely vintage, and also the brand is called Genuine Sonoma Jean Company. That's literally what the brand's called, but that doesn't exist anymore. So it's considered vintage. This is a suede black skirt. It had a lot of little imperfections on it, like little, just, it needed some TLC. It could have easily been fixed. I want to say I got this off of someone's Whatnot show that was like just cleaning out their closet. I honestly can't remember, but it was definitely $5 or under because I will not pay more than that for something I'm going to resell on Whatnot. It may have been less than that though. This one flipped almost instantly. I think it was like 2 or 3 days, and for my full asking price of $30 on Depop, which is a lot. That's a lot for a Depop piece. Next up was this Flying Tomato peasant shirt. I also purchased this on a Whatnot show for under $5, and this one I actually purchased from a subscriber, and her name is Juliana. I wanted to support her on her first Whatnot show, so I popped in and I think I bought like 10 items from her, some of which were for myself and some of which I was like, this is like on trend right now. I might try to resell it. So Juliana, if you're watching this, thank you. And she's Julie Sells on Whatnot. I will put a little thing of her Whatnot right here. Go give her some support because it looks like she's got some shows scheduled for late October and late November. And last but not least is this army jacket. This is just a fleece. This was my husband's, and so $0 in because he's had it for literally since he was a teenager. It sold in under a week for $25. So if you see these out in the wild, I would highly recommend picking them up. They don't really have a brand name on them, but it'll say Polar Tech on the fleece jacket somewhere. It might be near the pocket or something like that. And then the tag on the back will say Gen 3, might say Gen 2 or Gen 1, but this one specifically was a Gen 3. Sold so fast. So if you see these in your thrift stores, I feel like most people keep them forever, probably just for like nostalgia reasons. So you might not see them, but if you do, it'll flip quickly. That is all I have for what sold in September. Just a couple of reminders. Don't forget to use my code TaylorJoe if you want to join the REU community. You get 50% off your first month of REU Pro. Cannot wait to see you there. And again, thank you so much to the people who already did sign up. It's so exciting to just keep watching that community grow. It just like warms my heart so much. And also check out my link tree for those 2 whatnot links if you're interested in selling, or if you want $15 free to go shopping on there. And if you made it this far, you either like my face, or you like my new background, or you like some sort of aspect of this video, so why not subscribe? I post new videos every couple of weeks, so I will see you in the next one. Bye.